The rest of this month, the theme that I've chosen is what's love got to do with it? And today's topic is love enough? You know, Mother Teresa, who gave so much to the world and to those in need, also gave us great advice through her many sayings and writings. And here's one of my favorites. She said, "It's not how much we give, but how much love we put in the doing. That's the compassion in action." How much love we put in the doing. That really speaks to this topic of today's talk, is love enough? And next week, I'll also be talking about another part of this way in which we receive, process, and give love. For much of the world, for much of recorded history, the idea of love has been a significant concept in the minds of Earth's inhabitants. First, as babies and children, we love our parents or those who raise us. Then we love the person we choose to be with. In marriage, in partnership, in a close romantic relationship. If children come along, we love them. Through the course of our lives, we have varying degrees of love and caring for other family members, close friends, people we work with. And sometimes, somewhere along the way, we discover a greater idea of this emotion, this feeling. And we realize that it can also apply to people, situations, concepts that exist outside our immediate sphere of experiences or relationships. Sometimes, like Mother Teresa, we expand our intention and our influence, and we begin to love more universally. Let me share a story with you that I read in an article from Guideposts magazine one time. The story was entitled Coat Check. A woman volunteer at a telephone hotline for shut-ins regularly checked on people who needed a little extra care because of financial or health reasons. One of her regulars was an elderly woman who was living on a fixed income. And through their conversations, she learned that this woman desperately needed a new coat. Her tight budget meant that she had to rely on an increasingly threadbare old coat. So, wanting to help, the volunteer withdrew $200 from her own checking account, and she sent it to the woman with an anonymous note reading, "For a new coat." Well, the next time she called, the elderly woman had some good news. She said, "Somebody sent me enough money for a new coat. I don't know who it was, but it was $200. "How nice," exclaimed this volunteer. "So, did you get the new coat?" "Oh, yes," she said, "but I found one for $150. And you've been so nice to me, I decided I'm sending to you that extra $50 so the hotline center can help others in need." That's one of those beautiful, rare instances when where you give responds directly back rather than outward. So when the sunshine of love fills your being, the darkness of negativity dissipates. It's like we talk about when I put my focus on health or prosperity or loving relationships, and I stop looking at the negative, even though it may still be present, I de-energize it. It dissipates for lack of attention. And the energy that I'm putting on the positive expectation broadens and deepens and intensifies. So the attitudes of your emotional nature, the feeling level, are what decide your conduct. You see, the heart is the symbol of the deepest emotions, in our plane of existence at least. So wherever you are at heart is the key to what and who you really are. Everything begins in your heart, in your feeling nature. When tragedy occurs in the human condition, hundreds, thousands, sometimes millions reach out in countless ways to help, to support, and in aid. Situations like the tsunami a few years ago in Japan, the hurricanes that routinely create major damage in the southern states in the United States. These kinds of scenarios are demonstrations of the compassion about which Mother Teresa spoke. And we have another one unfolding right now, don't we, with the hurricane that just devastated the islands of Fuji. We don't have to know somebody to reach out in caring ways. And that's what love's got to do with it in these themes. That there is so much love built up within us because we have nurtured ourselves and cared for ourselves and loved ourselves, that we can then offer that in compassionate ways to others. Not to force it upon them, but to offer it. And I believe love is enough when we remember that love is the self-givingness of spirit. Love is God's desire to express itself through all it creates. No one is exempt from that. We're all in this together. To coin a phrase, it's the gift that keeps on giving. The more you use it, the better it gets, and the better you get at using it for yourself and in offering it. Mary Mann Morrissey reminds us that every one of us is a teacher for God. We're an expression for God. We're created in the image and likeness of that divine intelligence and spirit. And we're meant to represent God in this realm, this world around us. The way we do that is to represent the face of love. Over the years, I've done a lot of volunteer work as a chaplain at different hospitals in the different cities where I've had a spiritual center. And it's been a really meaningful thing for me. And I believe that the patients there, at least the patients there, to have a minister who believes in their total and complete potential to be healed. Increasingly, I've been drawn into conversations with seriously ill men and women, people who want to talk about the real issues in their lives. And amazingly, the vast majority of them recognize the emotional reasons behind their illnesses or injuries. What they're searching for are the ways to heal the causes. And as you know, there are so many books and DVDs and sources of information that have categorized this in recent years. Things that we didn't know about 100 years ago or 50 years ago, we know so much more about now. And it's not only coming from the spiritual side, it's coming from the medical side, it's coming from the social services side. It's so much of this body of knowledge growing and expanding in ways that parallel the highest and best good for those we serve. And each time I've gone out onto the floors and the patients' rooms in hospitals, I do three things. The first thing I do is go into the hospital chapel, whatever that looks like. Some are very modest. But to go into that place that's been set aside to become centered in love and service. To recognize who and what I am where that's concerned. And then I do a spiritual mind treatment, just like you heard this morning, to know the truth of each person I meet. And that truth is individualized in each person for such a variety of reasons. And then I look in the mirror, which is a selfie shot on your iPhone these days, isn't it? You can look in the mirror anywhere and see who you are in that moment. I look in a mirror to remind myself of the sign above the mirror in the chaplain's office of my very first chaplain's assignment at Sharp University in San Diego, some years back, early 2000s. That sign above the mirror in his office said, "Behold the face of God." Whew, gives me chicken skin. That's a reminder for me to always represent the face of God, the face of love. You can do that. Any of us can do that. To do that on a regular basis when you look in the mirror in the morning, when you comb your hair, when you brush your teeth, when you wash your face. To look in the mirror and say, "Behold the face of God." And it also reminds me in chaplaincy, as it may remind you as you go out the door later, to see everything, everyone you meet, with the eyes of love. Don Miguel Ruiz talks about that in his book, The Mastery of Love. You may not know he wrote more than one book. Everybody's real focused on the 4 agreements. But he's written a number of books, and one of them is titled The Mastery of Love. He says, most of us resist aging. So I went back and looked for this after I heard Christiane Northrup talk about biological age and the concept of aging. Ruiz says, we believe that growing older means we're no longer beautiful. And that belief is simply wrong. When we see a newborn baby, we're struck by its beauty. It's so cute. Well, when we look at an older person through the eyes of love, we can see beauty there too. Some people have problems with the emotion they have around what is and what isn't beautiful. Emotions like judgments, ideas that put limits on success and happiness, and things that push us to self-rejection or the rejecting of others. Tina and I went to the hula recital up at the Kahilu last night. And I was so proud of myself. I cut this article out of the North Hawaii News to show to her. Because she talks periodically on Wednesday nights and sometimes on Thursday afternoons about the work that she does with elderly patients, and how one of the things that she has found is so rewarding on so many levels, and that's to play ukulele for one of her patients, who at 93 is going through the appearance of Alzheimer's. And yet certain songs that Tina plays, her patient sings along with her, remembers the tune, remembers the words. So I wanted to show this article to Tina because it was about that kind of thing happening in the community, and she looked at me over the pizza we were sharing, and she said, "That was me." What they were writing about. So you see, there are so many ways that we can share our gift. You know, if ukulele is a passion for you like it is for some of us, or hula is a passion for you like it is for some of us, there are ways to share that. As I stood and I watched the Kapuna dance last night, and it was a chance to see them rather than be them. You know, you see them from the rear when you're dancing with them. But to watch them from the audience. There was one person in that group of Kapuna that I knew. But I was mesmerized by every one of them and watching their hands and their arms and their feet move. And how growing older has nothing to do with the passion for that which you love, unless you make it a restriction. In fact, it can be quite the opposite, because often as we grow older, we become more focused on certain things and we let go the things that don't have that much importance to us anymore. So aging, Don Miguel Ruiz says, is something beautiful, just like growing up is beautiful. We grow from a baby to a child, to a teenager, to a young adult, and each step along the way, in its own way, is beautiful. To become an older man or woman is beautiful. In the life of a human, that's a spiritual being having a human experience, there are certain years when we actively reproduce. During those years, we may choose to be sexually attractive because nature makes us that way. In the later years, we don't need to be attractive from that point of view necessarily, but that doesn't mean we're no longer beautiful. You are what you believe you are. There's nothing to do except to be just who and what you are. You have a right to feel beautiful at any age and to enjoy it. When I first saw Queenie Dorset at Parker Ranch Food Court, and we were playing ukulele, and she came and she danced for us, and she is so fluid and so beautiful dancer. She's 82, I think. 82 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, time to start, huh, Bill? So you are what you believe you are. There's nothing to do except just be who you are. You have a right to feel beautiful at any age and to enjoy it. You can honor your body and accept it as it is. You don't even need someone else to love you to make you lovable, because love comes from the inside. It lives within us, and it's always there. It does have a habit, however, of wrapping itself around others. If you have limited beliefs about what is beautiful and what is loving, or if you don't like something about the way you look, you can change your belief, and your life will change. Because whoever controls your beliefs controls your dreams. When you take control of your dreams or your beliefs about yourself, your dreams become a masterpiece of love and beauty. When you accept yourself completely and with love, happiness is the end result. The love within you brings forth your true and lasting beauty. I think at one time or another, we all wonder what's coming next in our lives. And Melody Beattie, in her book, The Language of Letting Go, agrees with that. She says, when you wonder what's coming, tell yourself the best is coming, the very best that life and love has to offer. Tell yourself that God is sending the best the universe has to send. Then open your heart to receive it. Claim it. And it's yours. For me, one of the best things that the universe has to send is grandchildren. I've often thought and said in opportune moments, like every chance I get, had I known what a joy grandchildren were, I'd have passed on having and raising children. I'd have gone straight to grandchildren. And now, in my life, that's been quintupled by 5 great-grandchildren. So, in any event, I find grandchildren are a lot like puppies and kittens. God never created an ugly one. And they're all absolutely captivating in their own individualized way. The kitten that chases its tail, the puppy that finds one of your favorite slippers and then chews on it, no matter how carefully you hide it. The infant that can be totally absorbed in the discovery of its fingers and toes. These things stir our hearts with love, with amusement, with admiration for their complete honesty and their focus. Have you noticed? When they're doing something, they are completely absorbed in that. When my grandson Ethan was about 3 years old, he learned how to kiss. Well, his idea of a kiss was, anyway, it was a little mushy. No, actually it was sloppy. But it was precious, and it was a complete expression of his love. He had come to understand that lips were for kissing. So he would come right at your lips. And sometimes in his exuberance, his head would wrap your nose at a pretty good clip. Although through tears of pain, you had to smile at his sweet little lips on yours. He didn't know pucker yet. So it was a lot like kissing Jell-O, you know. In fact, sometimes it tasted like Jell-O, or bananas, or saltine crackers. Yet it's equally worthy of note that his entire world was the recipient of his kisses. His green stuffed elephant, his Mickey Mouse doll, which he stole from my bed and took home with him. He came to stay with me one night, and I babysat him, and when he went home, he took my Mickey Mouse doll, which he still has, I might add, and I had to get a new one. But the animals on the pages of his books he would kiss, his brother Jake when Jake was just an infant, and of course their 2 dogs, Tilly and Tommy. All of this was in his line of fire. Tilly was a combination German Shepherd and Husky. She weighed about 90 pounds, and she was perpetual motion. But when Ethan would grab her nose with his 2 little hands and kiss her, she would stand absolutely still. And Tommy, what can I say about Tommy? Tommy was a black Labrador receiver. And Tommy was the epitome of cool. As hyper as Tilly was, he was the antithesis of that. He was a cool dog. He was the friendliest, laziest, most unflappable creature in all the universe. Oh, and by the way, he also weighed 105 pounds. Ethan, my grandson, at that time weighed about 35 pounds. So, although Ethan standing up was looking straight into Tommy's eyes, for you or me, it would be like looking straight into the eyes of a fairly large horse. But Ethan was undaunted, and Tommy got his share of mushy kisses right along with everybody and everything else. Even the TV screen in their living room reflected the aftermath of Ethan's love and affection. When Ethan's favorite programs came on, which at that time were Roly Poly Oly, and Thomas the Train, things like that, they got one of Ethan's kisses right smack dab on the glass of the television. You see, Ethan was expressing his love of life without restraint and without judgment. I mean, like, why not? Because we have to clean the screen? Clean the screen. So I think his was a demonstration of the love that comes from within. Of course, he was feeling and knowing the love his family had and still has and always will have for him. And he was reflecting that. But he was also spreading that love across everything in his life, animate and inanimate. He had more than enough to go around. He still does, incidentally, but that's another talk. That universal love that I spoke of at the beginning of the talk was expressing by means of this 3-year-old who didn't know he couldn't or shouldn't. He just did. So this is an example of what Mother Teresa was talking about when she said, it's how much love we put into the doing. Ethan wasn't judging. He wasn't questioning. He was just doing. He was just representing God. Representing the face of love, complete with green jello. There is contained within each of us, I think, those same qualities. Well, maybe minus the taste of green jello. Each of us starts out with these same innocent, completely unrestricted expressions of our feelings. And as we've seen repeatedly in times of great stress or great tragedy, we just naturally and unconsciously allow those qualities to emerge. Although such events don't occur for that purpose, they certainly do give all of us an opportunity to demonstrate the face of love in an honest and forthright way. As Don Miguel Ruiz says, love comes from the inside. It lives within us, and it's always there. And we can only perceive the love that lives outside of us when we feel the love that lives inside of us. So that's the message I wanted to convey this morning. Love is always enough when we realize that, like the other attributes of God, it's inherent in our nature. Love is showing compassion for others and wishing for them what you wish for yourself. Love is treating others the way you would like them to treat you. Loving yourself is the way that you learn to learn to love others. When you practice this, you become kind and forgiving to yourself and to others. There's an old saying, people get and forget. God gives and forgives. That's probably the highest expression of a loving consciousness. To be able to give and forgive. And that's what love has to do with it. To give and forgive. First for yourself, and all else follows. And so it is.